It's Christmas time once again in the Sartorial kitchen, and we are baking up a storm, starting with my cranberry orange spice cake with orange glaze. Next, I'm making a spiced cranberry punch, perfect for the holidays. And last but not least, it's my festive cream cheese cookies, so why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me?
This time in the Sartorial kitchen again, everybody. Hello, welcome. And you know what that means, baking, baking, and more baking. I just love to bake, and no time is better for baking than the holidays. I love making lots of just neat little treats for the neighbors and the family, things I can take to church. So much fun. So we're kicking things off with my orange cranberry spice cake. So to begin, I'm going to start with my wet ingredients. I've got a stick and a half of butter in here, softened butter, or room temperature butter, melted butter. You don't want the hard stuff. You want to make sure it's good and soft. And to that I'm adding my sugar here. That is just 2 3/4 cup sugar. I know that sounds like a lot of sugar, but this is going to be a really filling cake. It's almost like a pound cake, but I'm doing it in the bundt pan because I think it gives it a nice kind of fun shape. And then we're going to decorate it with some tasty glaze. So we're going to start first by creaming my butter and sugar together, just on a low setting with my hand mixer here. Alright, great. Should be nice and incorporate it together. Now for the rest of my wet ingredients, I'm going to do my eggs next. It's 5 large eggs. And I know you're thinking, that's a lot of eggs. Well, this is a big cake. You need all the eggs, trust me. The eggs are going to help with the leaveners, and it's going to give us a nice light and airy cake. People, I think, often confuse pound cakes with like something dense and heavy. No, this cake is going to be nice and soft. It's going to be firm on the outside, but it's going to be nice and soft on the inside. And I'm just cracking my eggs one at a time. I want to watch for eggshells, and this is why I do the eggs early on. It's easier to remove any eggshells than it is if you save the eggs for last. And the last of my wet ingredients, it is a cup of evaporated milk. It's going to make the cake nice and moist. And we go again. Nice. I am done with this guy for now. I'm going to use a spatula to fold in the dry ingredients. I don't like to I like to be careful about over mixing my dry ingredients because you'll end up with a dense cake once that gluten starts to activate. So we've got that here. Now I do have a few other things I want to add before I go into the dry ingredients, but we'll just fold those in. Some vanilla extract here. We're doing a teaspoon here. It's a big cake. We want lots of good flavors in there. I've also got some almond extract. I don't use this much because it's strong, but it does work really well with the cranberries and the orange. And I'm also going to fold in some chopped walnuts at the end here. So this one we're just going to do a 1/4 teaspoon, and you can use the lid for that just like I do everything else. That's going to have it give just enough almond without overpowering it. And my orange, got a whole orange here. You know me, I always roll my citrus. Nice. Now we're going to zest this first. You have to zest it before you juice it, because once you cut into it, you can't zest it too easily. I'm going to go ahead and zest this whole thing. Some of the zest is going to go into our glaze, and some of it is going to go into our cake. And then the juice of the orange, of course, is going to go into our glaze. And I love the zest. It's a more intense, kind of concentrated orange flavor. You also get a little bit of a floral note, so it kind of just really brightens everything up and really helps the other ingredients sing. And you should be able to get a couple tablespoons of zest, depending on the size of your orange. That's what we're looking for here. And I want most of the zest I want in the cake for the flavor, but I do want to save a little to put into the glaze just to kind of give it some color. Alright, we're looking pretty good here. And then we'll save this orange to make the glaze later on. Okay. I'm going to take about 3/4 of the zest here. And I'm going to save just a little bit for the glaze. Yeah, the rest of this I'm just going to set aside later for the glaze. Alright, time for the dry ingredients. I've got my sifter here. We're going to start with 3 cups of flour. And you know I love to sift my dry ingredients to avoid lumps. It also helps everything incorporate well together. And before you say, that's a lot of flour, remember, this is a big cake we're making here. You just want to make sure your flour is nice and level so you don't get too much or too little. Flour is one of those ingredients you have to get the measurements just right. Any of your dry ingredients. Just about quarter teaspoon of salt. The salt you can kind of eyeball a little bit. Baking powder, definitely. That is our leavener. That's going to help our cake rise. And we need a teaspoon of the baking powder. I'm going to start with some cinnamon. I'm going to eyeball this as well. I kind of went about a half teaspoon of the cinnamon. And then the nutmeg, we're just going to do a quarter teaspoon. Nutmeg's a little stronger. You don't need as much of the nutmeg. And lastly, some cloves. And cloves are the strongest of the spices here. So the clove is just going to be about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Just enough for you to know it's there. And then we just come in here and give our sifter a little tap, bitty tap tap. And you see that flour just comes through gently, almost like powdered snow. Alright. Everything is good and ready. Now I'm just going to come in from the sides and underneath and just fold up and over. This is the best way really to do the dry ingredients because you don't have to worry about over mixing the flour, activating that gluten. That's going to give you a really dense product. Now if you're doing like a dough, like a pizza dough or something like that, you want that gluten because that's going to give you that chew that people associate with pizza. But for cakes and breads and things like that, no. You want a nice, soft batter. Okay, guys, I think that looks pretty good. Everything is well incorporated, and I just have 2 more things I'm going to add here. Some cranberries. You can't have cranberry orange spice cake without cranberries. These are dried cranberries. I don't want to use the fresh because they have too much moisture in them, and it's going to change the outcome of the cake. But I'm going to add about a cup of the dried cranberries, which is just about 1 container here. And then I've also got some walnuts that I'm also going to add in. I want to add them in last and just stir them in so they will incorporate better into the batter that way without sinking to the bottom. And these are just chopped walnut pieces. Alright, now we're just going to fold those in. Make sure I stir this in well. So I want every piece of cake to have a good amount of the cran raisins and the walnuts in there. I have got a bundt pan here. I have pre-greased. Just some Crisco. You can use the non-stick spray if you like. I like the Crisco. It's shortening, so it's going to give a nice crust to the outside of our cake. And I'm just going to slowly pour that in. And I'm just going to go around. Now if you don't have a bundt pan, you can use like a bread pan or a loaf pan. You don't want to use a traditional cake pan. Because of the way this rises, it's really going to change the outcome of the cake. It's not going to kind of do what you want it to do. I'm just using the bundt pan like I said because it gives a nice kind of shape and design to the outside of the cake. Just make sure you get all that delicious batter out of here. We don't want to leave any of it behind. The oven, I've got it preheated to 350. This is going to cook for well over an hour, between 60 to 70 minutes, maybe longer depending. As always, we're going to do the toothpick test, and that's how we're going to know. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this in, and we will move on to prepping my Christmas tree cookies. I'll see you guys in a minute. Welcome back, everybody. Our spice cake is in the oven, and I can already smell it. Oh, so good, you guys. I wish I could share that with you. Those wonderful aromas. Next, we're moving on to my Christmas cookies. They are cream cheese cookies. Now, if you're not familiar with cream cheese cookies, they're basically, well, at least my recipe anyways, they're going to come out like those Loft House cookies that you get from the store, but these are so much better. No offense to the Loft House cookies, but I only taste like sugar when I eat those, powdered sugar specifically. Not the best thing, but these are going to be so full of flavor, and we're going to decorate them. I have some fun cookie cutters, and we're going to ice them, and it's going to be so pretty, so festive. Okay, so I'm starting with my wet ingredients again. This time I have 3 sticks of butter, which I know sounds like a lot, but this is going to be almost like a shortbread of sorts. So we need that butter. To that, I've added a block of cream cheese, that is softened cream cheese, so it'll incorporate better. Teaspoon of vanilla. And the butter is also softened. You can't have cookies without sugar. And I just need a half cup of sugar. I don't want these too sweet because we're going to be putting a really sweet icing on them as well. So just a half cup of sugar. And we're going to give that a whisk. Just on a nice low setting. Alright. That is pretty good. Now we are ready for our flour. Now before you say anything, no, I do not have my sifter out. I'm not going to bother with it for this recipe. Just make sure the flour is nice and loose. Now we need, also need 3 cups of flour. And another thing I like about this recipe, not only is it fun, it's something everybody enjoys, cookies, and they're fun to decorate, but the measurements. 3 sticks of butter, 3 cups of flour. It's so much easier when a lot of your ingredients have the same kind of measurements, because it's easier to remember what you're doing here. And I just need 1 more cup. And there we have it. And that is it. These are really basic ingredient cookies. Now a low setting on this. Very low setting, otherwise you're going to end up with flour everywhere. We don't want to leave behind any batter. Oh, that is perfect. Yum. There are no eggs in this batter, so we can give it a little taste. So good. I love cream cheese. I use it a lot. But especially in desserts. It's perfect for desserts. Now, if you wanted to, you could do like a drop cookie. Get a scoop and drop it on the pan and use it as is now. But I want to do my shapes. So I'm going to have to chill this dough before I am able to roll it out. So I'm going to get some parchment paper here. With the butter and everything, the dough would just get too warm and too loose for me to be able to do anything with it immediately. So we're going to put it up and let it chill. I'm just going to scoop this right onto my plastic wrap here. Make sure we get all of the dough out of here. And this guy up here. Perfect. And then I'm just going to form it into a ball. Awesome. I'm going to need a little more wrapping paper. If anybody has a life hack for organizing plastic wrap, please let me know. Such a pain. Just make sure it's well covered. And that's going to go in my fridge. That's going to chill, oh, just about an hour or so. Should be fine. And I will see you in a second. Alright guys, well everything is setting up. I thought it would be fun to do a nice little cocktail. I always like to do fun little drinks around the holidays. So this is going to be kind of like the spice cider I did a few seasons before, but this one's going to be cranberry. So I've got some cran apple here. Some cran apple juice. I'll be adding about 4 cups or so. Maybe just a little more. to that, I've got some spiced rum. And we're going to do about a cup of the spiced rum. I don't want it too strong. Just enough that you know it's there. And I want this to have a lot of nice, good spice flavor. So I'm going to throw in some cinnamon sticks. Just a few sticks. And then we'll give that a little stir. And basically I'm just going to cook this long enough that it gets nice and warm. And that's it. You don't want it to boil, you don't want it too hot. I just want it to be nice and warm and give those cinnamon sticks time to kind of break down a little bit and add some nice flavor to this. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. It's nice and warm, you can feel it. Now I just want to do something fun here. I'm going to take this orange and I'm going to run it around the lip of my glass. And then I've sprinkled some cinnamon sugar out here on this plate. And I'm just going to take my cup. And then we get a fun little rim for our glass. Now let's get a ladle here. Ladle some of this out. And I love that reddish color. It gives it a nice kind of holiday feel. And you can really smell that cinnamon and that spiced rum. Oh, absolutely amazing. And there we have it. Spiced cranberry. Voila. Perfect for the holidays. If you're looking for a different drink, everybody does eggnog, everybody does hot chocolate. This is something different. Just a little sweetness from the rim of the glass. Those nice warm flavors just tickle the throat as it travels down. Delicious. So next we are going to pull out our cake and give it a little glaze, and then we'll move on to our cookies. Alright, time to give this baby a check. It looks nice and firm, but we won't know for certain until we give it the little toothpick test here. I just like to poke somewhere in the middle. And it came out clean, ladies and gentlemen. This cake is ready. Now I'm going to let it sit here. It's good to let it sit and rest before you mess with it. One, it's going to, as it cools, it's going to release itself from the sides. It's going to make it easier to pop it out of this container. And also, it gives us time to work on our glaze. So the glaze, it's just 3 ingredients. I told you guys this is a really simple glaze here. And it's just orange. I'm going to take the rest of this orange that I did not, I don't think, yeah, there's a little juice left in here from our cranberry cocktail. Make sure you get in there really good. I like to use the tongs. Gives you more power to squeeze. And you can also, I think I showed you guys this before, earlier this season, take the ends here, and you can come into the pulp there and give it a twist and get even more juice out of there. And with the other half of our orange here, you get as much of that juice out as you can. You should be able to get from anywhere from a half cup to a whole cup, depending on the size of your citrus. Alright, that's, I would say it's pretty good. Done with these guys. Now I've got the rest of that orange zest from earlier. I'm just going to drop that in. I think the zest is going to give it a nice color. Also, you can tell what's in it. I love to garnish with my ingredients. And then, of course, some vanilla extract. I'm just going to do a ½ teaspoon this time. We're just making a little bit of glaze here, so we don't need too much of that. And then some powdered sugar. And I'm going to get my whisk out while I'm at it, my little whisk. Now, I'm going to need probably about a ½ cup, depending on how much juice you've got here. And you can just kind of eyeball it. I'm going to start whisking it here. If it's too loose, the mixture's too loose, You can always add more powdered sugar and thicken it up. If you have too much powdered sugar, you can always add a little liquid to thin it back out. And you just want to stir it really good so all of that powdered sugar dissolves. And I don't want it too thick like an icing, but I do want it to have some viscosity to it so it's not running all over the plate. Alright, our cake has cooled a little. I've got a fun plate here. Nice festive greens. And we're just going to turn this over. I got my gloves on still because the pan is still a little hot. And if we did this right, it should come right out. Oh, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Before I glaze it, I just want you to see all those layers of the nuts and the cranberries. I don't want this completely cooled. I still want it a little warm because it's really going to absorb this glaze that I've made here. And give this another little stir. Make sure it's good and incorporated. And then I'm just going to slowly come over the top here. And this is why I like the bundt, because you have those grooves from each piece, and it just allows that glaze to run down. And then we'll keep going. Ah, guys, this is so good. Make sure you get all that glaze out of there. So good. Okay, now this, I'm not going to cut into it just yet, guys. This is going with me to church tomorrow. We take turns bringing goodies for breakfast during the Bible study. And it is my week, and I thought, why not? Yeah. So, we will have to try it then. Alright guys, welcome back. We had our cocktail, and we glazed our cake. Now it's time for our cream cheese cookies. I've got my dough here. It is chilled. It's nice and firm. I'm going to sprinkle a little flour on the board. If you're noticing, I usually use my countertop, but Santa came early this year, and he brought me this fun little silk pad for doing baked goods on, so no more mess. Well, still be a little bit of a mess. And I just want the flour to keep everything from sticking, especially if our dough starts to warm again. It's just going to be a sticky mess, so this is going to be really helpful, the flour. And then I'm also going to sprinkle a little flour on my rolling pin here. Now that sound just means that our oven is ready to go. The cake was baked at 350, these cookies 400. So I had to get my pan nicely heated. Now I'm just going to roll this out. I like to start from the middle and come outward. I'm just going to roll this out nice and thin. Probably about a 1/4 inch thick. These are going to be pretty big cookies. The Christmas cutter that I have is a bigger one, so I don't want to the dough to be too thick. It's going to be a really heavy cookie. I think that's pretty decent. Now let's get that cookie cutter here. Voila! And I'm going to get a little flour on that as well. It's not sticking to my dough. And just come down and up. I think I'm going to get about 7 here. And then we'll do another pass. I should be able to get pretty many more. Beautiful. Now I've got my baking sheets here. I'm going to give that a little spray just to keep the cookies from sticking. Perfect. Now we're going to come in here gently and pull the dough away from the cookie. And just lay that right onto our tray. I'm being delicate so our cookies hold their shape as I do this. We don't want lopsided Christmas trees. That's no fun. And just pull the dough away enough where you can get underneath the cookie. Beautiful. And I've got room for one more on this sheet. I don't want to overcrowd my pan. That's going to affect my cookies if they're too close together. That's about 18 cookies here. I'm going to pop these in the oven. And really about anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. You just want to keep an eye on them so they don't get too dark. While those cook, I'm going to clean up here and get ready to make our glaze. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, royal icing time. Now this is kind of a royal icing hack. Traditional royal icing has egg whites in it or meringue powder. That's not very convenient for the home cook. So I'm going to show you a different way to put that together. So I've got some light corn syrup here. And we're going to do about a 1/4 cup. The corn syrup, it's going to give you that sheen that you're used to seeing with the royal icing. And then I've got just a little bit of vanilla extract here. I want this to have lots of flavor. I'll be adding a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Some food coloring. We may need to add more later. But I'm going to do about 5 dashes. I want this to have a nice rich green color to it. And then some powdered sugar, of course. Let me get my whisk here. I'm just going to go ahead and whisk the corn syrup and the food coloring. That's kind of the color I want. But it's going to dilute some when we start adding the powdered sugar. So we're going to have to keep an eye and see if we get if we need to add any more or not. And then I'm just going to dump some in here. This is probably about a cup and a half. You're just going to have to play around with it a little bit until you get the consistency you want. And I'm just going to stir this in. Alright, there's the timer. Let's check these babies out. I think that looks pretty good. They're nice and firm, not too much color on them. They will stiffen up a little more too as they sit. Yeah, I think those are pretty good. Now if we ice them now, that icing's just going to go blah, all over the place. So I'm going to let these rest for about 15 minutes or so. And I will come back. We'll be ready to finish our cookies. Decorating time. I've got my sprinkles, I've got my icing. I'm just going to give that a little stir, make sure it's still fresh. And I've got my cookies. They've cooled down now and they should just come right off. Beautiful. And I greased the pan so they should just come right off. Just give them a little tap and they slide loose. Perfect. I made sure to make one extra for me so I can give them a taste for you guys. Got my little spatula here and we're just going to come in and ice these. Now this is one of my favorite cookies. It's such an easy recipe. Everybody loves them. I can't go a holiday season without somebody asking for my Christmas tree. Alright, now we're just going to kind of paint this icing on. I'm going to get a little here on my spatula and right on top. I'm not a professional pastry decorator by any means, so we're just going to kind of come in here and just kind of spread it on. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. This one kind of broke, so I decided it would be my taster cookie, so I just want to get a little icing on that. And I find the easiest way to do this is to just glob a bunch in the middle and then kind of come out to the edges. It's almost like a coloring book where you learn to stay inside the lines. What's great about these cookies is they give you, there's, you know, this natural border here. So it kind of gives you an edge here to work with. Now I've got my sprinkles here. And these are just kind of the little red sugar crystals. And I'm just going to dash a little on. I don't want too many, just enough to give it some color. So it's going to add a little fun little bit of texture to it as well. This little guy here that didn't want to stay together, just to give it a little taste for you guys. The cookie, it's just so soft. It's like the Loft House. It just kind of falls apart in your mouth. You get that cream cheese though, gives a little tang. And then the glaze, just a simple vanilla glaze. Perfect little cookie for the holiday. And easy to make. Well, as you can see, the cake was a huge success. I'm surprised there's actually any left. But I am going to cut myself a little piece so you guys can see how it tastes as well. And here we are, my cranberry orange spice cake. Just like I said, guys, good and moist. The cran raisins and the walnuts give it a lovely texture. The orange really brightens everything. It's not too sweet. The spices give it a nice savory note. Perfect cake for the holidays. So, once again, I thank you for joining me for my holiday baking extravaganza. Until next time, bye.
Merry Christmas to you and yours from the Sartorial Chef.